Hello friends, my name is Marinez, and today I'm going to finally talk to you about some books that I've read this year. About a week ago, I decided to do a live stream kind of on a whim, just because there were a few random things that I had feelings about, and it seemed like doing a live stream about them would be easier than making a video, haha. During that live stream and in talking about all of the not reading that I've been doing this year, the rational part of me realized that I haven't been doing no reading at all. And I keep kicking around the excuse that I have nothing to talk about, but obviously I do, because I've at least read 14 things this year, so let's talk about at least half of those. Book number 1 was a manga, Emma by Kaoru Mori. This is a Victorian romance story about the eponymous Emma. The story starts with a young aristocrat named William who decides to go visit his old governess, and he encounters the very pretty and sweet maid Emma. They are drawn to each other, which is kind of a big deal because in Victorian London, marrying outside of your class is a big deal. I gave this first volume, and this is from the 5-volume series, so I think it's even bigger than like the 10 different volumes, but I gave this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was sweet and entertaining and just kind of breezy. The art was fantastic, and there was something about it that I can't quite explain in my limited manga experience, but it just flowed so well from frame to frame. It was very detailed, and I think it elevated a story that was a little simple and familiar. While the relationship at the heart of this is between William and Emma, I found their slow burn to be more like, is this even burning? I had the most feelings for Emma and her boss, the governess. Truly the only moment that I really felt heartbroken was because of Emma and her boss. I've got all of the volumes of this series. 2 is actually sitting beside my bed because I'm currently reading it, so I got a little buy happy at the end of last year when I was like, I'm gonna try manga. So this is definitely a series that I will continue with. Book number 2 is The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon, which I had a copy of, but I actually gave it away. I loved it. This is a YA contemporary story about a girl named Natasha who is facing deportation in less than 12 hours. She chances across a guy named Daniel, and truly the rest of the story is about the ideas of fate versus science and facts, and this idea of love at second sight. I thought that this was not only beautifully written, but very beautifully crafted in all of the ways that the pieces all came together. And in a story that's about 2 ends of the spectrum, faith in science versus belief in fate, we get an almost over-the-top story that is really grounded in these relatable and real experiences about immigrants and families, parents and children and dreams and growing up. To me, I was never really focused on whether Daniel and Natasha's story could be possible, but rather the idea that for it to be possible, they had to really break free off of all of these restraints, and I think that experience almost extends to the reader. I love the changes in perspective and how that allowed the story to move beyond our 2 main characters and give weight to the sense or the exploration of how some things might be coincidence and some things might be a little more. It was such a wonderful reminder that the people all around us are people too, and I reject the idea that they were superfluous, because again, I think it was such a nice reminder that the stories of the people who surround our own also have value. And in a lot of ways, they inform our own story. There are people and reviews out there that will warn you that this book features insta-love, and yes, that's kind of the point of the story. It's about 2 people who basically spend a day together. If that's going to upset you right from the beginning, that's the only way that I would say to pass on this one. But otherwise, I highly recommend it, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Book number 3 was Sweet Evil by Wendy Higgins, a YA paranormal about a sweet and innocent girl born with special abilities who learns who and what she is after she meets a hot guy. This was both a buddy read with Sylvia from Wish Fulfillment and a reread for me. I originally read this in 2012 and I really enjoyed it. Just to correct that right out of the gate, 2012 me was wrong. I gave this 1 out of 5 stars. More than being wrong, I'd wager to say that I thought it was good for the same reason that a lot of people think it's good if you read through reviews and things, and that is that it's compulsively readable. To clarify, I don't think that that's because any particular skill of the author, but because the story is so very simple. There's little depth or complication or friction to really slow you down. On reread, for me, sometimes that meant intense boredom and other times impressive repetition. The entire middle of this book is a cycle of brooding and love that cannot be and driving and info dumps. Perhaps worst of all, our main character is supposed to be innocent and pure, and the story uses that as an excuse to intertwine some weird misogynistic ideas with its PG steamy kiss scenes. Sylvie and I had a blast talking about this, at least I know that I did, and that's pretty much because we're awesome, and no thanks to this, my first 1-star read of the year. Book number 4 was A Rogue by Any Other Name by Sarah MacLean. If you guys remember, at the beginning of this year, I set a goal to read in some genres that I typically don't invest time in. One was manga and the other was romance. I collected recommendations here on YouTube and also on Twitter, and Sarah MacLean's name popped up a few times, so I literally just picked the first book in a series that was available from my library. My placeholder review on Goodreads said that I have a lot of feelings about this book that I wanted to talk about, but perhaps the most telling thing that I can say in this review is that I remember literally none of those feelings. I think the fact that I read it pretty much in a day during a time where I wasn't really able to read anything else tells you about the Pringles once you pop kind of appeal to this story. But to sit here and tell you much else about the story, I can't. It's a typical girl is a vagina virgin and boy is a heart virgin, and they conquer each other's virginities, but also they're foolish when it comes to each other and they never properly use their words. I gave this 2 out of 5 stars. Books number 5 through 7 were The Last Wish, The Sword of Destiny, and The Blood of Elves, all by Andrzej Sapkowski. These were all rereads as well, as I read the first 3 books in this series across a few months in 2016, and I wanted to move on with the series, but instead of just moving on with the series, I decided to reread the ones I already read because I'm me. I don't know, it's just what I do. These books are so full of details and characters that rereading was just as fun for me as reading was. And because the first 2 books are short story collections in a sense, and they happen not chronologically always, I feel like going back through them a second time really helped me gain a better understanding of everything that happened. I will also say that rereading this book is what inspired me to make a video on problematic content. Check that out if you haven't already, because I talk about how if you like problematic content, it's the responsible thing to do to talk about the ways that it is problematic. So whenever I'm talking about these books, I always mention that as much as I love Geralt and I love Ciri and I love their story and the rich world, the portrayal of women in the series and in the video games isn't awesome, and it continues to be a thorn in an otherwise enjoyable reading experience. Now that I've reread these 3, I'm already currently reading the 4th book, and hopefully I can, make progress. That's it for today. If you guys have read any of the books that I mentioned or are interested in any of them, let's chat in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys soon. Books number 5 through 7 were The Last Wish, The Sword of Destiny, and Evil. That's not right.